Good evening, everybody. Welcome to First Church. Welcome to our self-healing class. We have this every Thursday night. I want to say a special welcome to all of you on Zoom, and also a shout out to those of you who are joining us this week on YouTube and Facebook. Again, we get a lot of comments, sometimes dozens and even as many as 60, 70 every week, and we appreciate your comments. Some of you are supporting the center. We appreciate it. It allows us to keep developing our programs and reaching out and helping people. This evening's class it's a normal self-healing class. I'm going to use a little bit of Wayne Dyer's information. Wayne Dyer was a friend of Louise Hay for many years. He also published some of his books at the Hay House, which was Louise Hay's publishing company. If you're new to the call, or this is your first time, you're wondering how you got here, we have many ways that we meet people. Sometimes when you like or you want one of the things we offer, we have lots of things that we offer on the internet. You ask for more information. So if you're getting a text message or an email, you've undoubtedly at some point in time appreciated something that we've put together. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. The thing about dealing with self-esteem and growing spiritually is it is not something that happens in one afternoon with one viewing. It requires a little bit more than that. There's people who show up for these classes week after week, and some weeks they can't come because life gets in the way. And we have the ability, because of technology, for you to watch the rebroadcast. Everything we do is put on YouTube and Facebook a few hours later, so you can always refer back to whatever we're doing. And as Jimmy pointed out, we don't have any charges for anything that I can think of, unless maybe we do a very formal class. So everything we do is available. You can invite your family and friends. There's no cost. You can support the center. We appreciate your donations. So I'm going to use a little bit of Wayne Dyer's information for this class. I discovered it. I've always read Wayne Dyer, but occasionally I go back and I find things that, I don't know, I must have missed the first time around. And that's something that I can say for the Science of Mind textbook, of any of the great books that we referred to, Louise Hay's book too. Many of you have owned it for many years, and you go back and you're in a different place. The information was always there, but you're in a different place. Wayne Dyer had a poem in one of his books written by a student. And the poem was called New Direction. And the lady wrote, "I want to travel as far as I can go. I want to reach the joy that's in my soul and change the limitations that I know and feel my mind and spirit grow. I want to live, I want to exist, to be, and hear the truths that are inside of me." So I kind of like that. That was one of the openings he had in his material. Again, he was a friend of Louise. He published at the Hay House. So I'm knowing everyone who is with us today at this gathering is open and receptive to being nurtured and reminded that you can improve your life, that you can, in fact, heal your life. You have the power to do amazing things, and even if it doesn't seem so, because when I hear people and people call us for counseling, people are going through a lot, and that's life. I've gone through a lot. I'm sure everybody on the call has gone through a lot, but if you're involved in this teaching, you're inviting Spirit in, and you move through the challenges with greater ease, and you realize that the things that are happening in your life are not happening to you, but for the most part, they're there as stepping stones for your growth and your evolution. So stay with us. You're going to experience amazing things as you begin to work with this material. every one of our classes, in one way or another, are going to remind you of a couple main facts. First of all, you have power. You know, you're an individualization of God's source. That means you're one with the one. So, you know, when you're talking poorly of yourself or thinking that you don't have this or you don't have that, and you're talking about your dis-ease or your discomfort or what isn't right, you really want to start becoming mindful of the things you're saying to yourself, because everything you're commenting on that's negative is in a transitory state, meaning you are spirit, you are one with the one. The creative intelligence lives within you. And as you start to have more spiritual understanding, you're going to get that this God, this source that we talk about, is in everyone, including you. Ernest Holmes, our founder, said there's power for good in the universe, greater than you, but you are definitely a part of it, right? And you can learn to use it. So you have this power. He referred to it as like this enormous bank account downtown. You know, you just need to learn how to receive. And so we talk a lot about approaching the ocean of life with bigger containers. Because if your opinion of yourself is small and you only deserve a little in your own mind and estimation, or you don't think you're worthy, then life has a tendency to give you according to what you think you deserve and believe. In fact, life reflects in your life. Your day-to-day living is a reflection of your consciousness. It's a reflection of what you know, consciously, like I'm awake here, I know I'm whole and complete. But it's not just your conscious mind, it's what's beneath the surface too. So we really want to work with our thinking, our thoughts, and we want to develop them, and we want to lift them. We want to engage more fully. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is your own magnificent, wonderful life, and you can have a life that's just amazing. You were meant to come here into this world and to flourish, and so you don't know how to flourish yet. Okay, a lot of us haven't known, but we will learn, and all of our classes are here to help you evolve, to grow, to challenge yourself, to express yourself in a bigger way. You're evolving in light, and you're moving towards freedom, and you can stop it. Now, you can resist, as many do. Many people resist, but the fact of the matter is life and spirit within you is always wooing you, guiding you, trying to get your attention for you to grow and evolve. So I want to get into something else before I go further. In the back of your erroneous zones, I was reading it yesterday and today, and it's quite long, so I won't read it all to you. Wayne Dyer goes through all the areas where we get ourselves hung up, the erroneous zones, the places where we make mistakes. And I was going to do that, but then I thought, I encountered a second part toward the end, where he described a self-loving person. And I thought, well, let me see what that looks like. And I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but I'll go over part of it with you. So it's a portrait of a person who loves themselves and who has eliminated self-defeating beliefs. The person who's really living the affirmative life might sound like a fictional character, but being free from self-destructive behavior is not a mythical concept. It's a possibility. It's something very real. You can be free. You were born to come into this world to figure it out and learn how to be free. Being fully functioning is within all of our grasps, and to learn to live present moment, to be alive in present moments is one of our goals. We don't want to be living in the past. We talk about that every week, and we don't want to be living in the future. Living in the present moment is one of our goals, and it's a choice. I have a description of how people who are free of all this negation that Ernest Holmes spoke of and this negativity, how they function. You will see the development of an individual. If you're learning to love yourself and you have what Dr. Holmes said, if you've come to a point where you're relieved from the bondage of self, which is all the nonsense, right? Alan Cohen describes sin as self-imposed nonsense. If you're getting to the point where you're lightening your load, you're not carrying around a lot of guilt and shame and blame and all of that stuff, you'll see an individual who's unlike most people. And you can see them, they're distinguishable by they have an uncanny ability to be creatively alive in everything. People who practice our teaching, who live the affirmative life, are different. They're very different from people you meet most of the time. While they may look like everybody else, right, they possess distinct qualities, none of which have anything to do with their color, their size, their shape, or the money they make. They don't fit in any particular job or description or anything else. They could be very educated, or they may not be educated. There's something different about people who are practicing and living this affirmative life, who are loving themselves. Again, they could be rich, they could be male, they could be female, they could be living anywhere in the world, and they could be doing just about anything, but they got it. They have it. What is the it? When you really love yourself, Louise Hay said, everything in your life begins to work. So it's a very varied group, but they share a singular trait. They're centered usually. You notice they're peaceful. There's something about them. And they're focused, and you'll notice once you get to know them over a period of time, they're generally peaceful and they're happy. In the midst of craziness, they're happy. I've always known a few people like that, where everybody else is going off the rails. They're calm in themselves. You know, the word I used to think is they're unflappable, they're unsinkable, things don't faze them. They don't, I have friends, I used to be like it too, where you're squabbling with everything and all the time. You know, from the morning when you pick up the phone call, and especially when you're in business, you know, everything, you know, is coming at you. You think it's coming at you. I come from the Irish background. There was an old saying, is this a private fight or can anybody get in on it? You know, so it's like if you have this consciousness where you want to be doing war with people, you know, of course, that's your consciousness. But if you're living this affirmative life, you really, first of all, once you start to understand what it is and you start to see it in other people, there'll be a few people that you always seem to know that stand out. I can think of a lady in Florida. Both her parents were Science of Mind ministers. And she was a teacher of mine for a while, and she would never get upset over anything. And I wanted her to get in there as a student and to straighten people out. But she just always smiled at everybody, and she let them be. And they were learning from her in a different kind of way. I thought she should straighten them out when I was younger. There was something about her. She's still alive and she still possesses it. Her name is Barbara, and she's quite extraordinary. She knew Ernest Holmes as a child, and she was raised by these parents who kept telling her how wonderful she was, and she didn't get a lot of the stuff that I got. But in terms of a person who's living the affirmative life, you'll notice them when you meet them. They won't be perfect, but there's something about them. These folks are generally comfortable doing almost anything. They're happy wherever they are. And they waste no time complaining or wishing things were different. When you're living this life, you tend to be enthusiastic about life, and they're really trying to just wring every moment of life, you know, every moment of joy out of life. You know, that old song, I haven't got time for the pain. Well, they just live, like, they release the need for it. They don't go there, they don't have any, you know, it doesn't attract them. They don't really have any much time for gossip or any of that stuff either, because they've thought it through. There's nothing in that for them that they want. You know, you'll see them at picnics, movies, sports, concerts. You'll see them everywhere and anywhere loving life. And when you're around people who are living the affirmative life, you'll notice that there's an absence of grumbling, moaning, groaning, or even sighing. And if it rains, they're happy. If it's hot, they dig it, and they don't complain about much. If they're in a traffic jam or whatever, they have resources within themselves. I don't know if they're listening to an iPod or whatever it is, the traffic that everybody's cursing about doesn't seem to bother them. They deal with what is in a different way. They have an acceptance of what is and an outlandish ability to delight in reality. Now, you might say, who are these people? These are the people that Ernest Holmes spoke about. He said, find me one person who's for something and against nothing, and I will find the Redeemer of my soul. The people who have relieved themselves of bondage of self, the bondage of complaining and talking about what's wrong and what's missing. And if you ask them what they don't like, they're generally hard-pressed to come up with anything in a serious way. They don't have sense enough to come in out of the rain because they see rain as beautiful too. Thrilling and something to experience. They like it. Slush or snow doesn't bother them much either. It doesn't send them into a fury. They observe the stuff, they splash around in it, and they accept it as part of being alive. And do they like, Dyer said cats, animals? Yes. The answer is yes, they like everything. So, this is a different kind of person. He said, if you're dealing with people like this, people who are living the affirmative life, try as you might, you'll have a tough time coming up with anything they intensely dislike. They are, as I said earlier, unflappable. Truly, they like life. They are the lovers of life. They are the lifters that we talk about often. They see people and they're happy to greet them and give a warm smile and a hello. They're there to get every minute of joy that there is out of life. So they're practicing the presence in every encounter. These kinds of folks, and these kinds of folks can be all of us, are mentally healthy, they're fulfilled, they're free from guilt and all the attendant anxiety that goes with any of these negative emotions. They're not living in their past. They're not immobilized with guilt and fear. They haven't got time, as I said, for the pain, and they don't have the desire to go there, usually. They don't want to be a part of negative conversations, gossip, or any of that. It's not their thing. They know they've made mistakes, and internally they have made a decision. They vow to avoid repeating the same mistakes, knowing that it's counterproductive. But they don't waste their time on wishing that they hadn't done something in the past, or being upset or lamenting over something that's been done to them when they were younger. Just because they dislike something that they did in an early point of their life. These folks, and I'm hoping that's all of us, are learning to live in the now, and they know that any mistake that they made was a stepping stone in their growth and evolution. Complete freedom and guilt is a hallmark of a person who loves him or herself. There's no lamenting again over the past, and there's no effort to make others choose guilt by asking questions like, why didn't you do that differently? Or aren't you ashamed of yourself? You'll never hear them do that. They seem to recognize that life, we walk through life, we live life, and no amount of feeling bad will alter the past. They're free from guilt, and that's what we're hoping you do in our Thursday classes. Free yourself from guilt. Never, never, never criticize yourself. The people who are practicing the affirmative life never help others to choose guilt or try to make people feel guilty. They understand that feeling bad in the present moment will only reinforce poor self-image and poor self-esteem, and that learning from the past is far better than going over and over the past. You won't see a person who's living the affirmative life manipulating people by telling them how bad they are or what they've done is awful. They just don't do it. And nor will you be able to manipulate these folks either with guilt. And they won't get angry at you. They'll simply, maybe walk away. They're not going to fight with you. Rather than being upset with you, they'll just move on, or they'll change the subject. The strategies that work so beautifully on most people will fail completely with people who are healthy-minded. Remember Terry Cole Whitaker's title of her book, "What you think of me is none of my business." You can't manipulate a healthy person because, they understand self-acceptance and self-approval that they have in the now are the keys to all positive changes. So they've come into their own where they're not about junk. They're not giving it out and they're not taking it in. Rather than making themselves or others miserable, they don't complain to their boyfriends, their spouses, their kids. Rather than making people miserable, they unceremoniously pass when all that stuff comes along. You won't get them. It's like that lady in Florida I know. Can't get her to say a negative thing, no matter what you do. She's just not going to do it. I tried. I tried to get her to get after some students who didn't seem to know what we were talking about. She didn't do it. They're not going to go along with those games. In a similar way, people who are free of negativity and chatter are generally non-worriers. Circumstances that would drive other people crazy or in a frenzy barely affect these people. Again, it was Dr. Holmes, founder, wrote The Science of Mind, said, "Find me one person who's doing this, and I want to commune with that person. Find me one person who's so redeemed from the bondage of self, all their nonsense, their complaints and complaining. And that will be the redeemer of my soul," because he said, most people just don't live the affirmative life. So, in all honesty, most of us don't live it perfectly, but certainly it's something worth, it's a worthy goal to keep seeing the good and be the lifter and keep seeing the God, the good. It's just doing your best. And you might say, "My God, but I was a train wreck yesterday." And so what? You were. Okay? Make the amends you need to make to yourself and others. And, yesterday ended last night, says Raymond Charles Barker. We begin anew, and we begin anew with love in our heart and a desire to connect with others, to realize that we're one with the one. We're really, we're awesome. We're like spiritual beings, whatever God is, we are, and we can wake up each day knowing that, and we can go forth to love and to love ourselves and love others. If you're this person, you're going to get to a place where you refuse to worry. You're going to keep yourself free from worry and anxiety that accompanies worry. When you're living this, really living it, worry becomes somewhat foreign to you. It's not really a part of your makeup. Doesn't mean you're always calm all the time, but you're unwilling to spend your present moments agonizing about things in the future over which you have no control. People who are living the affirmative life and practicing this teaching are very present moment people. And you have internal signals that seem to remind you that worrying must, if there's any worrying, it's going to be in the present moment, and it's not smart to go about living your life filled with worries. Folks like this are living in the now. When they find themselves going back to the past or what someone did to them, whoever left them, whoever hurt them, they know it's a big mistake. And they say, stop, and they bring themselves right back to the here and now. They're not threatened by the unknown, and they seek out experiences that are new, and they seek out experiences that are unfamiliar to them. And they love ambiguity. They don't have really a big problem with change. So I know a lot of you have a problem with change, and you want to have things to be what they were. But if you're really smart, you know that life is never going to be like what it was. It just doesn't work that way. You think about it, it just doesn't work that way. So if you're a lover of life and you trust life, you're going to learn to embrace the now, and you're going to know, it's just the best is yet to be. I remember my father reading that poem to my mother all the time. Come grow old with me, the best is yet to be. You know, if you can cultivate that kind of consciousness, you know, where you know everything is wonderful and you don't have to wait 5 years till you get the pension to be happy. You don't have to wait till you get the new girlfriend or boyfriend or car to be happy. Be happy when? Now. You can do that, you know? The point of power is where? It's always in the present moment. So people are practicing this teaching, savor the now at all times, and they're aware that's all they really have. You don't have any guarantees about next week or next year if you get right down to it. So what are you waiting for? Folks like this are not necessarily planning their happiness in the future. And we're, you know, waiting a long time for inactivity to go forth. They're all about enjoying the moments between these future events, and because they know that these moments are just as livable and important, they have an uncanny ability to get pleasure out of every single day of their life. So you got some big plan up planned 3 weeks from now. What are you going to stop enjoying life until 3 weeks from now? And what happened to today and tomorrow and the next couple weeks? These people are not postponing loving life, or they're not saving all their money for rainy days. And you'll find if you're one of these folks, it was Dyer who said, culture isn't necessarily approving of you because you're such a free spirit. But they're not really very threatened by whether culture is approving them or not. They're living that idea from Louise, which is self-acceptance and self-approval are the keys to their happiness. They gather their happiness now, today, and when a future now arrives, they gather it then as well. These individuals who love themselves are always enjoying simply because they see the folly in waiting to enjoy. Enjoy now. They don't get why you have to wait, 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years to be happy. This is a natural way of living. It's very much like that of a child. They're busy grabbing present moment fulfillment while most people spend their lives waiting for a payoff of some kind. And they're never able to quite get what they're looking for. These are very healthy-minded people. In fact, our teaching has been called the religion of healthy-mindedness by the person, Gene Houston, who wrote the foreword to the textbook. If you're working with this teaching, you're becoming healthy-minded. And these folks are somewhat, they're strikingly independent. It's another characteristic. You're out of the nest, and you might love your family to pieces and be devoted to all of them, but you understand you are your own person and you're independent in your relationships with others. People who are really working this teaching treasure their own freedom. Their relationships are based upon mutual respect, for the right of the individuals. And you would really want everyone in your orbit to be making decisions for themselves. You wouldn't want to be making decisions for anybody else because you know what's good for you, but you really don't know what's good for anybody else, and you really don't want to be judging where they are. So this type of person who's loving themselves, they don't impose their values on other people. They put a high premium on their own personal time and privacy. Other people may not understand it or might not like it, but people who are loving themselves in this way understand that they need this time. They like to be alone at times, and they will go to great lengths to ensure that they have that time. So I could go on and on. Let me see. These folks refuse to be dependent or dependent upon in mature relationships. With children, they provide a model of caring because they encourage self-reliance almost from the very beginning with a great amount of love offered to the kids. You will find an uncommon absence of approval seeking in these people. You know how a lot of people, they want to be approved of in their relationships. A person who really loves themselves isn't doing that. It's kind of like that Terry Cole Whitaker thing I mentioned. What you think of me is none of my business. They're self-contained and they're they're self-approving, they're fully developed people, they're happy wherever they go. They're able to function without the applause, without the social media likes and approvals. They don't seek out honors and applause like most people do. They're usually free from the opinion of others. Almost, it seems like they don't care. It's not that they don't care, but they're there. They're really internally focused, or they focused on self-acceptance and self-approval. They are internally directed. They're literally unconcerned about the evaluation of others. As I said before, they're not oblivious to the applause and approval. They just don't seem to require it. If you want to know what you think, just ask them. They'll tell you. Conversely, when you say something about them that's negative, they will not be destroyed. They'll take your information in. As my teacher used to say, and their healthy side will take it under advisement. But these are folks that have done some work on themselves. And this is what we're all hoping that we can become, more independent and more confident, where we can build up our self-esteem. So there's about 20 more pages of this. I may turn this into another talk at another time, but I want to get back to the questions I had for this evening, which I just discovered this profile of a healthy person, which I liked and I wanted to share with you. So my list of questions for you tonight, which are brief. And I'm hoping most of you are willing to say yes to these questions. Every affirmative answer you have, by the way, would suggest that you're willing to expand and grow and evolve by loving yourself, that you're becoming willing to take charge of your present moments. The first is, are you able yet to accept yourself without a complaint? Are you able to go through the day without saying, oh, you're dumb, or I used to say you're a dumb blank, I don't do that anymore. Are you able to go through the day and accept yourself, with flaws and all? Are you able to love, accept, and approve of yourself? That's question number one. How did I set this up? Every affirmative answer would suggest you're willing to expand and grow, to evolve through loving yourself, that you've become more willing to take charge of your present moments. So that was the first question. Can you love and accept yourself without complaint? Where you never criticize yourself. Are you there yet? Or, most of us are, we're moving towards that. Next question. Can you love yourself at all times? And if not, when do you fall short? There's no right or wrong answers to any of this. It's just for you to gain some inner insight. Are you able to equally give love and receive love? See, receiving love is sometimes difficult for people too. When people come up and they say, I love you and all that, how do you feel? A few more questions. Do you believe that your mind is your own? That's a whole chapter in that book. Do you believe you're the only thinker in your mind? Do you believe that you have dominion over your own thoughts? Or do you always go back to the history? You decide what's what with people even before they speak. Okay? Is your mind your own? Are you able to be in new moments? Next question. Are you capable of controlling your own feelings? Are you unflappable to the point where you're just cool, They can say whatever they want to say and do whatever they want to do. It has nothing to do with you. So you're not taking it personally. You're learning to refuse to be offended. That's kind of a big one. I've got about 5 more. Are you motivated from within? Is your compass from the inner, or are you motivated from the stimuli on the outside? So are you self-directed? Are you like one of these people I was reading about before? Are you motivated from your own internal knowing and compass, or Do you find that people have the ability to get you off track very easily? The next one is, I've already mentioned it a few times, do you need the approval of other people? I went to a lot of good therapy on that one. The therapist used to ask the group, are you other referred? Do your sense of well-being, is your sense of well-being coming from yourself? Or do you need somebody to say, oh, your hair is beautiful, you have a beautiful this, you're beautiful that, you know? It's okay. Are you free from the need for approval was the question. Next question. You know, you're an individualization of God life, right? So you are the captain of your ship, you're the author of your own experience. Do you set up your own rules of conduct for yourself? Because if you're really an evolved person, you do. You know, you're not measuring yourself according to what other people are doing. Nobody needs to punish you. You do a good enough job doing that to yourself and for yourself. Have you evolved to the point where you are setting up your own rules of conduct? Next question is, do you have a lot of fairness issues? That used to be one of mine when I was younger. This isn't fair and that isn't fair and everything's not fair and all that. And I didn't at that point realize that life is unfolding perfectly everywhere and all the time. So I had a lot of fairness issues. That was a question. Here's a big one. Here we are in this teaching, we're lifters. We're committed to being like Edwina Gaines. Remember I told you about her? She's always there seeing the God or the good. Those are the only two words she knew. She's going to see the God and good in every situation, either or. So, you know, if you have that consciousness where you're seeing the God and good in everything, you know, you don't have much time for the pain or nothing. Can you accept yourself and avoid complaining? Can you love, accept, and approve of yourself and avoid complaining about yourself and anybody else? Can you see the peace of God instead of whatever you're seeing? That's a tall order, but that's the question. Are you moving towards that, seeing the good, the God, the peace of God in every encounter? That's what a metaphysician ultimately does. They see God and good in everything and all the time. Next question, are you free from hero worship? I don't know where he got that one from, but I guess the idea would be, I mean, we're learning here to come in to realize that, you know, we are our own best friend, that deep within the center of our being, there's this infinite well of love, light, creative intelligence. You don't have to look to other people to save you. You know, there's no better person, there's no holier person than you. So are you free from that? Have you come to realize, you've heard the songs, that you are your own, in fact, hero? You know, you're the one that you're looking for. Have you learned to love, accept, and approve of yourself to the point where you know, in truth, there's nothing outside of you? Next question. In life, in this beautiful, exciting life that we are all a part of, are you a lifter, are you a doer, or are you a complainer and a critic? In this brief moment of life we have, some number of years, are you an exciting, happy person that's a lifter? I heard somebody say sometimes, that's me too, not all the time. I really do try. And when I find myself doing the negative stuff, I say, stop. So, you know, most of us are works in progress, right? This is a cool one. The next one, I kind of like think I'm a little bit like this. Do you welcome the mysterious and the unknown things in life? And that's exciting when you get there. Some people really want everything locked down and be exactly the same. You know, they just, real problem with change. Question is, do you welcome the mysterious and the unknown? I think I already asked this question, but it comes up again. Can you love yourself all the time, even when you're being witchy and miserable? Can you practice radical self-love even when you're not at your best? And can you have a conversation with yourself that says, hey, listen, get a grip, everything's going to be okay, I love you, I approve of you. Are you able to nurture yourself, or are you going to drive yourself right in the ground with criticism? Have you woken up to the fact that you realize you came into this world alone and you're going to leave alone? And have you eliminated a lot of this dependency that you might have had in your life in relationships? Do you realize that you're whole and complete and wonderful yet? Or is that something you still need to learn? Have you eliminated blame, fault-finding, and gossip from your life? What rewards are there for you with blame, fault-finding? You know, if you're criticizing yourself, you're putting yourself down. If you're criticizing others, it's really about you anyway. So what's the payoff in any of that? Most of you who've been around this particular class, I mean, we seem to hit that subject almost every other week. Next, I know a lot of people have, regrets. I remember Sinatra. I've had a few, but too few to mention, right? But we've had regrets. And, the regrets can stop us from having this, present moment that's wonderful. Are you free from being guilty? Are you able to avoid worrying about the future is the next question. Are you able to freely love people? I can do that. I don't stay angry at people. My brother used to say, that's the problem with Greg. He won't hold a resentment. I don't see the purpose. I don't see where you win with a resentment. Are you able to give love freely, regardless of who they are and what they've done? And are you able to give it? Are you able to receive it? Have you eliminated procrastination as a lifestyle? I don't know, I can't relate to that, but many people can. Do you procrastinate and procrastinate? There's genius and boldness. At some point, you make a decision. But I'll hear what you all have to say about that one. Let me see if there's another. Yeah, there's one or two more. Can you be spontaneous? And can you enjoy a change? Let's say you had a plan, you're going to go someplace Saturday night, and things don't work out, and then your friend says, no, let's go here. Can you just go with the flow and have a good time? Or are you going to get all bent out of shape when things don't work out a certain way? Are you a person with the irony of life where things sometimes just don't work out? Are you able to appreciate it and create humor in situations? Or do you get all disappointed and you lose your cool? Are you motivated by your potential for growth? This teaching is amazing in terms of it talks about the potential. You can create visions for yourself and vision boards, and you can walk into a whole different life. It doesn't matter if you're 22 or you're 82. Are you motivated by your potential for growth? Or are you motivated by your need to fix yourself? There was a lady on a call recently who was talking about where to put your focus. And, you can work on yourself and your issues, of course, but it's more exciting to put your energy around the big idea, what you envision for yourself. Because when you really put your energy around, what's possible and who you've come here to be and what your big idea is, many of these other issues will solve themselves along the way. So please don't just try to keep fixing yourself, have that big dream in front of you. Lift yourself up. So let your motivation be around your growth and your big ideas. At any moment in your life, you can choose to say yes to all the questions above. If you're willing to let go of the shoulds and the oughts and the critical thoughts that you've had throughout your life. The choice in most cases, boils down to whether you decide to be personally free or you remain chained to the expectations that other people have of you. As you learn to embrace the affirmative life and actively remove these obstacles, these old things, ideas that have kept you from beautiful experiences, you're going to make exciting discoveries, and you're going to start choosing some new things where you can follow your own inner guidance, and it'll take you to places that are unimaginable and fantastic.